Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Fox, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a breakout film of 2018. My favorite film of the year, hands down. I would even go as far to say one of my favorite films of all time. Now, recently, Spider-Verse won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, which I felt was the most deserving out of all the nominees. But why? Why did Spider-Verse win the Oscar? Yeah, we could just say, well, it's a good film, that's why. But there's so many details and intricacies that refine this movie that makes it such a memorable and enjoyable experience. I think this is especially highlighted in a standout moment for the film, the one I see everyone give praise to, Leap of Faith. The scene where Miles Morales' origin story and every theme of the film comes full circle. But then that brings us another question. Why is this scene so beloved? Well, nearly every single second is jam-packed with some sort of callback that highlights Miles' journey and embodies what it truly means to be Spider-Man. So today, we're going to break down and examine everything that makes this scene so good. First things first, I think what makes this scene unique from anything else in the film is its directing, its editing, how it's all put together. Playing out like a music video or montage. It reminds me in particular of the bumpers that aired on Toonami, which played out in a similar fashion. In a way, this allows us to envision how Miles feels in this moment, the words he can't get out of his head, the memories flashing back and forth, the pressure that lies on his shoulders, and the adrenaline building up. On the note of a music video, let's shed some light on the song that carries the scene, What's Up Danger. Though one different from its commercial release, due to having Daniel Pemberton's immersive score mixed into the scene itself. What's Up Danger on its own is a song about being a daredevil, a risk taker, not being afraid of the unknown. In the context of the film, it's about embracing the consequences and duties of being Spider-Man. Taking on the mantle of the wall crawler, much like any superhero, is dangerous. You're not only putting yourself in danger, but the lives of others. But due to Spider-Man being naturally witty, having a wicked sense of humor, and remaining optimistic in plenty of stressful situations, yet buckling down when things get serious, he faces danger, as if to ask, what's up? Truly, there is no better song they could have produced for this film that would have caused the scene to be as impactful as it was. It feels a bit obvious to say, but What's Up Danger being hip-hop, along with the other songs that makes up this amazing soundtrack, really does a great job of reflecting Miles' culture, giving his story that much more of its own atmosphere. It's not something we've seen done 1,000 times before. Going into the scene itself, we're greeted by a panning shot of skyscrapers, accompanied by strikes of lightning, which has various symbolism. Lightning could mean fear, good luck, even loss of ignorance. All of these reflect Miles in this moment. He's afraid, as we'll see later on. He's hoping luck is on his side, and especially, he has a loss of ignorance. He knew nothing of what it took to be Spider-Man. He went from following fabricated comic book retellings to being thrown into undesirable situations, which forced him to adapt. Above all else, he lacked the one thing all the other Spider-Men in the movie carried with them, the loss of a loved one. However, now that he's fresh off the heels of losing Uncle Aaron, he finally understands the burden the rest of his team bears. As Miles begins to take deep breaths, illustrating the nerves and anxiety, we begin to cut back and forth to the creation, or rebirth, of his suit, and his journey to the top of the skyscraper. Approaching the late Peter Parker's lair, the entrance opens for him, leading Miles to discover Aunt May awaiting his presence, who simply murks and states, "Took you long enough," as she takes a sip of tea. This is one of the more overlooked moments within the scene, but has so much weight to it. Many adaptations of Spider-Man, especially in the first two Hollywood franchises, paint Aunt May as his grandma on the sidelines, who Peter has to worry about and take care of, who also serves as the occasional fortune cookie, usually leaving MJ or Gwen Stacy as his partner in crime, the one who always has his back, the wingman, when in reality, Aunt May plays that role just as much. Now, the MCU seems to be taking small steps to rectify this by slowly giving Marissa Tomei's interpretation a more active role in his life as a crime fighter, but I'm not going to hold my breath when I watch Far From Home. Aunt May is the woman filled with wisdom, who at the end of the day, had to play the role of Peter's mother and father. Spider-Verse did a great job at putting May on the pedestal she truly deserves, giving her the role neglected by other iterations. We have to remember, every other Spider-Man came to May's house, meaning all 5 of them had a connection to her in their own dimensions. Aside from Miles, Aunt May is the glue that holds them all together, as she's the one who unites them all together. Not to mention she was helping Peter out in his duties being a superhero, and allowing him to use her shed as a base of operations for probably years and years. Remarking took you long enough to Miles means she saw what all the other Aunt Mays saw in the other web slingers. What she saw in Peter. She had no doubts Miles would pull through and get his stuff together in time to save everyone. She knew he was worthy to take up the title as Spider-Man. Essentially, if you receive Aunt May's blessing to be a superhero, you're golden. As Miles continues to breathe, moving closer to the edge ever so slightly, we're introduced to him at the subway, and subsequently running out of the station. He paced himself and took an alternate method of transportation, which calls back to Peter B. Parker's advice earlier in the film, advising Miles to not immediately jump into web slinging, and adjust to saving his energy for when the time is right. Miles heeded Peter's advice, taking it to heart in this very moment, walking, not crawling, to the top of the building he currently resides. As all of this transpires, dialogue of Miles' father echoes to both the audience and Miles, our protagonist taking to heart the one-sided conversation with his father earlier that day in his dorm, the two separated by a wall Miles can't break down at that point in time due to being distracted by both Peter's webs and himself. This dialogue is what drives Miles to fulfill what everyone sees in him, what he sees in himself. It was only a matter of being ready. Once more in the Spider Cave, Miles stares at the late Peter's costume. However, not the costume he died in. I believe, and was under the impression from the moment I first saw the film, that this suit in particular was Peter's very first Spider-Man suit. The one he donned when he was just a kid, bitten by a radioactive spider, at a similar age and build Miles is at now. However, unlike earlier in the film, when Miles first meets the suit and his eyes don't quite line up to the mask, telling the audience Miles doesn't truly see himself on the same level as Spider-Man, it's a mantle and responsibility above him. This time, the eyes meet. He feels he's on the same level. He knows he's ready. It's here that Miles reinvents the identity of Spider-Man and owns it. Earlier in the film, we learned Miles is artistically inclined, throwing up graffiti with Aaron in his spare time. Not only is this a trait that separates Miles from the rest of the team, but it's one that connects him to the loss that pushes him forward. With that said, Miles spray paints the suit, giving it a unique flair, and we're brought back to the skyscraper. As his exchange with Peter prior to the scene circulates, that it'll take a leap of faith for Miles to know he's Spider-Man, our boy does just that, jumping off of the building. The shattering glass in his trail is very telling. It's more than just theatrics or to show how powerful he is. Instead, as many fans have pointed out online, it calls back to an earlier scene in Alchemax, where Peter informed Miles he won't be able to lose his grip on surfaces if he's not calm. Thus, at this moment, Miles is far from calm. He's terrified out of his mind, but he still takes that leap of faith. His own fear can't hold him back any longer, as it did during the fight at Aunt May's house, how being paralyzed with fear contributed to losing a loved one. As Miles rapidly descends towards the ground, a shot many may recognize from the teaser trailer returns, Miles falling, but our perspective is completely upside down. The film's screenplay says it best. To quote, "The camera is upside down. Miles isn't falling through frame. He's rising." Also, I'd like to point out the screenplay originally envisioned Miles disinfecting his mask and putting baby powder on the joints of the costume. A nod to Peter's dry response to Miles' question about being Spider-Man in the second act of the film. I assumed it was removed because it disrupted the flow of this sequence, and could be seen as a bit more comedic than everything else in this breathtaking moment. Preparing to propel himself through the city, we once again come back to the Spider Cave, Miles being gifted a pair of web shooters by Aunt May, who says she made them herself and that they fit perfectly. Winking. Once more, she had the utmost faith in Miles, never doubting him for a second, whipping up web shooters just for him in the matter of hours. Miles shoots 2 webs back up at the building he leapt from, gaining momentum, as What's Up Danger returns his vocals just in time for Can't Stop Me Now, syncing with Miles letting the training wheels off. No more leash. From here on out, he's unstoppable. He's ready for his first real swing, and he's ready to save the day. Now, Miles' web slinging is an amalgamation of Peter's advice and Miles traversing the school early on in the film. He doesn't just swing, he runs, jumps, parkours, leaps over the bus instead of struggling to hold on to it. He's on fire, flipping off of the streetlight, ascending and having the time of his life, as the imagery mirrors the way he failed to jump off of the building and crawl earlier, running confidently past an office building, no longer concerned for being spotted, unlike the way he evaded his classmates earlier, struggling to grasp his powers. He's in complete control. With this, Miles finishes his warm-up across the city, stops to catch his breath, and goes right back into it, closing out this scene with his comic book issue flying smack dab in the middle of the screen, telling us as an audience his origin has been completed and reminding us he's the star of this film. This is his story, and he's the one who's going to save the day. Finally, Miles Morales is Spider-Man. And there you have it, folks. I absolutely adored this scene, and I love just going through it for this video, looking at every single thing, seeing how it correlates and develops scenes earlier in the film. Honestly, this is a true masterpiece. I will never get tired of Spider-Verse. I love this movie with all my heart, and I love this scene with everything in me. But what do you guys think? Was this your favorite scene in Spider-Verse? If not, what was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for my own hot takes and probably less yelling, you can find me at Fox. We're also on Instagram. Help the Roundtable grow by either becoming a member of this channel or supporting us on Patreon. Help us do amazing things. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, throw it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable to never miss any great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Fox out.